Hey everyone! So today I wanted to do a tutorial about how I sketch trees. It's actually something I did as a live video a few months ago over on Instagram, but I got a lot of positive feedback, a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and so I thought I would do a similar video for YouTube. Okay, so what am I talking about when I say painting trees? Basically, how I do it, to give you a feel for things, is like this. So this was the Frankfurt skyline. I'm just playing around with different shades of green and different depths to get a fun feel for the trees. Here's also, I earmarked a few pages, an example, so sort of similar, just doing work with hills and with some trees. And I think I have another example here. Then in the fall, also playing around with trees. So obviously much more colorful this time, but sort of the same principle. So today I thought we could do some stuff together. So I have a blank page here, and I'm going to show you basically my process. So how I go about sketching trees. So what I'm going to do is maybe just do like an imaginary forest. So normally I would be out on location. I would maybe look at the environment around me first a little bit before sketching, or if I'm doing it based off of a photo, I'd already have spent a few minutes sketching or thinking about my sketch and then sketching from observation. But for this demo, I'm just going to draw a few of the trees and base it off of my imagination, basically. So what I normally do to start off with is I just do basic contour lines. So one line, and you can make them maybe stand out however you want. But I'm just using a fountain pen here to get sort of a rough shape. So let's say maybe these are trees on a hill or something like that. So, you can look, and if you're on location, maybe the trees will have different shapes that you can play around with. So for example, like here, I have like ivy, which is sort of a fun shape, or these pine trees, these oak trees. But for this example, I'm just gonna do the broad shapes. So let's say this is, like I said, a hill, and that's basically all we need. So we don't need more than that. And, it looks pretty simple, pretty basic to start off with. But trees, at least when you're looking at them from far away, they're relatively simple shapes. So you don't need to get caught up in all the branches, all the leaves. Just have fun with them and look for the basic shape. So here's my palette, by the way, that I'm using, so you can see what colors I have. And basically, I should have filled this up, but basically I like to use I forget the name of the color, but it's like a sort of like a yellow. I don't know if you can see it. I think now you can see it better. It's like a yellow-green as a base. But I would say pick maybe just one green color that you're going to use as a base, and use that in different combinations with different colors to basically create your trees. So I'm mixing here my yellow-green, and I'm going to mix it up with some yellow, and then maybe a little bit of, let's do a little bit of brown. And honestly, I'm a fan of using less colors than more colors, because I feel like it makes things look more realistic. If you use colors straight out of the tube, then you're not really gonna get the sort of shading and the nuances that you're gonna get if you mix things, and just use like one base color as your green, and then mix it with some browns or some yellows or also some blues. So All right, so I'm gonna do that, mix it up, and I'm just gonna put it here on my paper and just color in the shape. And that's it for this one for now. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my green here, but I might take some blue. So now mixing in things to get a bit of a blue-green feel. And I'm gonna add that somewhere else. So obviously, you know, I'm basing things off of nature. If I'm out on location, looking to see where are things maybe a bit more blue-green, where are they more brown-green or yellow-green. But you know, don't do all of your trees the same color, because in nature they aren't like that. So, you know, just mix them up. So we can also maybe do something that's really bluish green or a dark green. So here's an example. And then maybe we'll say it's time to go back to like a yellow-green. So just mixing, like I said, just a few different colors. And I'm just always using sort of this yellow-green as a base, and then adding some yellow or some brown or some blue. So here's another example. Okay, so normally, so you can see it's starting to seep in. Normally I would wait for the shapes to dry before going over them, but since this is a real-time tutorial, I'm trying to speed things up here. But you know, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. All right, do some yellow, maybe even a little bit more. You know, just having fun mixing things up. And actually, as I'm looking at it, I could even be a bit more daring with my colors. So I'm going to do I'm going to put some more brown onto things. Because, you know, trees aren't all the same color, like I said. And actually, you know, when it's time for spring or fall to come around, you can have even more fun because your trees, they're just really different colors. I guess, I know that's a no-brainer, but yeah, I always like doing like fall foliage. Okay, so, and I'm just using the same color in here. I guess you could call it, maybe it's almost like watercolor mud that I'm using. But the nice thing about it is I'm just getting different shades of green, which I would never get straight out of the tube. So I'm just mixing them and putting them onto my paper. So maybe we'll do like a really yellow one. Yeah, that's a nice yellow one. So this is maybe, I don't know, like late summer, these colors, I guess you could say. So it's before maybe fall has really peaked, but also, you know, not really spring. But like I said, if I were on location, I'd be looking more at the colors. This is just to give you a feel for my process. So we're doing this bit by bit. And I know it looks simple, but trust me guys, it'll turn out to be cool. Okay, so we're almost done painting or filling in the shapes here. So I've got this one here. It's always a bit awkward, to be honest, painting here with like a tripod directly in front of me, so I apologize if maybe I'm covering things up. I'm not used to having a camera right above my sketchbook. Okay, maybe we'll do another one that's a bit more brown. Or I guess in this case maybe a bit more yellow brown. Okay, so that is the first thing we do after we've got our lines on the page. We just go through the foliage and vary our greens, or at least that's what I do. Now what I'm going to do for my second step is do a second layer. So I'm going to go back and mix, and I'm going to try and get the colors I had here, but just a bit darker. So this one is sort of like a yellow-green. So we'll see what we can do with that. Just adding some brown and some blue to get like a darker shade. And I'm just gonna go in and let's pretend the light is coming this way, okay? So you have to focus on, where's your light coming from? Even on a cloudy day, you're still gonna have light. So let's say the light is coming from this way. That means my shadows are gonna be down here. So I'm just gonna go along the edges where I feel like things should be darker and just do a second layer. Well, it's as simple as that. Just seeing where your shadows are, your light spaces, and just playing around with them. So doing that, and I always like to make sure that in between the trees I can get some shadows, so that makes things pop out. It gives things more contrast, and it's just going to help your sketch to look a bit more 3D, I guess, at the end. Okay. Do some shadows here as well. As you can see, it's slowly starting to take shape. Now it's still wet, so it still looks like there's a lot more contrast than there will be. That's always the tricky thing about watercolor. It dries a lot lighter than what it looks like when it's wet. But we're not going to let that bug us. We're just going to take things one step at a time. At least that's what I do. So, and you can see I'm just sort of keeping the same color tones that I had as the first layer and just doing like a darker layer on top. And I'm pretty much, unless I really need to switch my greens, I'm pretty much using just one little spot on my paint palette to mix everything up, just because I feel like it gives you much more variety in colors. If I were to clean everything, go over it with my paper towel here, then we'd lose some of this vividness, which would be a pity. Okay, so we got that, and now we're gonna go do some brown. Maybe mix with a bit of green again. And I hope you guys can actually hear me all right. I guess I'll figure this out when I'm editing the video, because I don't have a microphone or anything. I'm just using my cell phone, my smartphone here to do these videos. I guess I'm a bit of a low budget videographer. Okay, so got these shadows done, and you can sometimes use the paper towel or the toilet paper. Actually, it's toilet paper to blend things in a little bit if the contrasts are too harsh for your liking. So just gonna continue doing this. Okay, see, so now this is an example where that's a bit too brown, so you gotta be quick because it's gonna dry the watercolor paint. I could lift it up, but I'm just gonna live with it. And I just put it down so I have my second baseline. And we're almost done with the second layer. It was as simple as that, just doing 3 little layers, 2 little layers. I got a bit ahead of myself. So now what I'm gonna do is do the third and final layer. And I like to think of things in 3 layers when I'm painting. So normally if I'm doing a sketch and it just does not feel like it's completely finished, or even before I go about to start painting, I think in 3 layers, 3 tones. So what's my lightest tone, what's my mid-tone, and what's my darkest tone? And that's basically what I'm doing here with the trees. So if you want to get good textures, or I guess have a good feel for light and dark, try thinking of things in 3 values. So as I said, now we're going to do our darkest tone. It's going to be the darkest part of the shadow. And it's only part of the tree. And actually that is almost a bit too dark, because that tree is a bit more yellow. So it's fine to make mistakes, it's how we all learn. And you can always, if you're working quickly, nimbly, you can sort of correct those mistakes. With watercolor, you just gotta be quick and have something on hand to, get rid of the color. Okay, so here's another example. And sometimes I might even do 4 layers. I might come around and do another layer to get even darker here. It just really depends on how things dry. And actually, I'm not sure. I'll try and hold it up. I guess that's not really gonna work, but I think you can get a feel for the sort of layering that's happening here. So it's just a matter of layers, that's it. And as we saw at the beginning, these shapes were pretty simple, but they're already coming to life, just because we're adding layers with different values. So our darkest tone, or starting with, our lightest tone, then a middle tone, and then our darkest tone. So do it like that, and then we'll come in maybe for the sort of browner trees. And as you can see, this is a bit tedious. If you have a really long spread, it's gonna take some time, but I don't mind taking my time on trees. I don't know, I like to sketch them. So I'm a bit bummed out actually that it's now winter here in Germany and I can't do a lot of these foliage sketches anymore, but there's always next spring, I guess. Okay. So I'm almost done. I'm just putting in the darkest part of the shadows, and wherever I feel like I need some contrast to make things stand out, I'm adding these dark shadows. All right. And that is basically it. So now you can see, if we take a look at the sketchbook again, it's basically the same approach. I don't want to put it directly on top. So it's basically the same approach here, working with 3, 4, maybe sometimes just 2 different shades of greens, keeping them all in one little space, and really just using one base green and then mixing that base green with a yellow or a brown or a blue tone to sort of get your variations in color. And yeah, that's basically my process here. Alright, that's it. That's how I sketch my trees. I hope you guys found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, just leave them down in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.